We've talked about yesterday a lot that when we are going out and buying these units that are foreclosed upon, we really need to know what it's going to cost to fix. Because if we don't know what it's going to cost to fix, we're in a lousy position to negotiate the sales price. So with a capital needs assessment for a multifamily, it's extremely important to have someone that knows what things cost. There are several firms around the state that do these. They can get copies of what they do. We'll talk about in a moment. But there are several firms around the state that I would say if you're going to be doing capital needs assessments on some of these larger multifamily buildings, you really want to consider hiring people who exactly know what they're doing and not rely on in-house staff who has experience just inspecting single-family units. Because this is where people are going to make their biggest mistakes. Paying more than they should for something because by the time they rehab it, they now are upside down. And remember, if we've got, more than likely, as an NSP person, we're going to be telling a nonprofit or for-profit who's buying this, here's the amount. It's $900,000. We'll give you $1 million, but that's all we've got. And then they come back to you and say, oops, we started construction, we didn't count on the fact that the drainage doesn't meet code, and now we have to redo the entire parking lot and need another $200,000. If you don't have it, where's that going to come from? Your developer fee, or they're going to end up cutting back on something else and being upside down. So this part of this deal, this initial assessment of what repairs are needed, I would argue is going to be one of the most important things you do, and it's worth the money you spend to get someone who's experienced doing it. Now, how do you evaluate people that have done this before? Well, one way is to take a look at what their reports look like. Do the reports look very specific? We kind of talked about this yesterday. Does it say replace this door, this door, this door, and this door? Or does it say doors, $20,000? If it just says doors, $20,000, that's not the kind of firm you want to have. You want the details of what needs to be replaced. You want to make sure that it's got cost estimates for what the repairs need to be made, how much it's going to cost. And we talked about the detailed quantity. And I think the other thing that's extremely important in this is pictures. You want to be able to see, you want to be able to hand your capital needs assessment. Capital needs assessment that a nonprofit gets, it should be able to hand to you, and you should be able to look at the pictures, read that, and go, okay, I understand. All the cabinets need to be replaced, all the hot water heaters need to be replaced, the AC is only going to last 3 more years. I know exactly what's going on. Now, the other thing that I think is important to note here in doing this is because we've kind of been talking about reserves and how reserves may not cover all the costs that are going to occur as we're going on with this property. I had this assumption before I got into really started getting into this acquiring existing units. I had this assumption that when you bought the property, the reserves came with it. You're buying the property. I thought, okay, we're buying the property, we're going to get the security deposit account, and we're going to get the reserve accounts. Wrong. When you buy the property, if you don't negotiate that you are going to get the reserves, you don't get the reserves. The guy who's selling them, the person selling them, gets to keep the reserves. So one of the things you have to make sure is part of the contract is whether that price includes the reserves that are there. And of course, as we're going to kind of look through later,
there aren't going to be any.
There's not going to, and you're right. There's not going to be any reserves. But geez, you're right. They're going to be gone. So, and my question, I guess, for the lawyers that I would like to get answered is: when the security deposits are gone and people are living there, then who's responsible? Right? Where's that money supposed to come from? Because somebody, obviously, if someone walked away with the security deposits, that's a violation of Florida law, I'm guessing. And so if they're not there and someone's gone into foreclosure, and my guess is it's very likely that the security deposits will be gone, I would wonder who's responsible, whether it's the new seller or if that's something you negotiate with the bank. Okay, we've agreed on the price of $1 million. Now there's $100,000 worth of security deposits missing, so I'm only going to pay you $900,000. But those are all kind of the issues we're going to be facing when we're acquiring these existing apartment buildings. And, right. I mean, the realtors, when they go to sell these, they know the books can all be examined. So usually, when you're doing your due diligence, you're going to have a copy of the audit. So yes, the system will fall apart if the auditor lies, the real estate agent lies, and the owner lies about what the cash flow is and occupancy is. Yes, that could be a problem, but you're going to have
and conditions.
well, that's why you're going to have to hire your own capital needs assessment. one that,
repair.
one that we worked with, the owner had paid for a capital needs assessment. And our recommendation to the potential buyer was, get it updated. Pay this firm that did it. It was a reputable firm, but pay them. And also, you know, the firm was very reputable, put in there, you know, here's what we didn't do in here. So we did not, one of the things they didn't do was they now have infrared cameras so you can take a picture of the wall and see if the pipes are leaking. And that was something we recommended. It was very much worth paying for because this was a building built in the 70s. It was a project-based rental assistance deal in southern Orange County. And we thought it was very important that they take a look at whether or not the pipes in the walls were leaking, because eventually, if they're leaking, that's one thing that's going to show up. You know, start having intrusion into the units, and then you've got mold, and then all kinds of problems. So that very good firm that did the capital easement said, here's what we're not, here's what we didn't look at. So our advice was, okay, go pay $5,000 or $3,000, I think it was, to get them to update it and make them look at the things they said they didn't look at. And let me stress on capital needs assessments. If you pay $5,000 for a capital needs assessment, and it comes back with all these repairs you never anticipated, and the cost is through the roof, it will be the best $5,000 you've ever walked away from. So one of the challenges that we see with especially nonprofit developers and local governments also is this whole idea of sunk cost. You know, I can't walk away from the deal. I've already spent $10,000. Okay, so now you want to lose, instead of walking away from $10,000, if we go forward, you're going to lose $2 million. I vote for losing the $10,000 personally. So that whole concept of sunk cost, I've already spent this money, I can't go back. You've got to be thinking, I've spent this money, I have to go back. It told me the answer, and the answer is don't go forward.
And the $5,000 or $10,000 that you spend is eligible expense under NSP.
Right, and there's two ways. One is admin, which I think would be cleaner and easier. The other option that we've read in the FAQ is that you can spread that cost over deals that you actually did do. Now, I think if I was monitoring you and I tried to figure out how you did that, that would be really very cumbersome to figure out. But HUD has given us permission to allocate those costs across the whole deal. Gladys yesterday was talking about how it's probably not fair for owner-occupied, because if we inspect 10 and we buy one, that one person who we're buying is covering the inspection cost for 10 houses and having to pay that back in any recapture amount that they, you know, the second mortgage they're getting on the property. That's probably not fair. With rental, we're never expecting these to be sold. And so it might be fair, I don't know your thoughts on it, but it might,
one organization.
yeah, it might be fair to allocate within one organization if they inspect two and then walk away from one, that we just add that NSP money to the 12 units that they did buy. So I think it would be cleaner and easier for it to come out of admin. I think the challenge with that is it's tied in local governments right now, and we hate giving up our admin money. But I think that we just may have to factor that in when we're gearing up with our staff, like we talked about yesterday. We might have to factor in if we plan on doing. Remember, as Glass pointed out, we're not talking about a ton of units. I mean, when we looked at the math handout that we had, I think this is the right one. You know, if you've got $1 million and it's a $100,000 a unit, you're talking about 10 units. So we're not talking about an enormous amount of cost. And I'm hoping that also, when we get to the point that we're paying the $5,000 for a capital needs assessment, we've already had somebody on our staff walk through it and get an idea of what they think is wrong. That we're not buying it blind. We're not going to just go, oh, I love the building, here's $5,000, go inspect it. We're going to have done some due diligence and have some idea of what we expect to find before we go pay for someone to confirm what we expect. This is Gladys keeps repeating, you don't get what you expect, you get what you expect.